Welcome back to Senior Healthty Care, where you will discover several recommendations for seniors. Today, we offer crucial recommendations that seniors should not overlook. Move better after 50. 5 PainSmart exercises for senior wellness. A large number of people suffer from musculoskeletal discomfort that makes it challenging for them to do everyday things and lowers their quality of life. Statistics from several national sources show how common this problem is and how important it is for public health. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that more than 1 in 4 persons in the U.S. had lower back pain in the past 3 months. They say that this sort of condition is a major cause of disability and missed work. According to further information from the National Health Interview Survey, around half of those over 50 say that their joints are stiff, which makes it challenging for them to walk and do routine tasks. Worldwide population-level studies support these findings, linking increasing age to a higher prevalence of osteoarticular pain and functional disability. Although physical limitations are often attributed to the inevitability of chronological aging, interdisciplinary research in gerontology, physical therapy, exercise science, and rehabilitation medicine challenges a solely age-deterministic viewpoint. A considerable amount of the pain, stiffness, and functional decline associated with aging appears to arise not only from the unavoidable biological processes of aging, but also from the cumulative impacts of prolonged sedentary behavior, habitual postural neglect, and the progressive atrophy of the body's inherent movement abilities. Sedentariness leads to muscle atrophy, connective tissue shortening, joint stiffness, reduced proprioceptive acuity, and neuromotor deconditioning. These alterations heighten tissue vulnerability and lower resistance to routine mechanical loads. The human body is designed biomechanically and physiologically to move about a lot. From a developmental and evolutionary perspective, human anatomy supports repetitive cycles of loading and unloading weight transfer, squatting, lunging, and other locomotor movements. People nowadays spend a lot of time sitting down at work, in cars, and at home. This habit has led to a general deterioration in functional strength, mobility, and balance. When you don't move about for a long time, certain muscles like the hip flexors and thoracic extensors become shorter, while others like the gluteals and posterior chain get weaker. This makes the spine, hips, knees, and peripheral joints work harder than they should. These incorrect behaviors may lead to chronic discomfort, decreased range of motion, inadequate mobility techniques, and a higher risk of injury from fall slips, or even just standing up from a chair over time. To reduce these inclinations, you don't need to join a commercial gym, buy special equipment, or perform a lot of intense physical training. A realistic rehabilitation strategy centered on basic bodyweight exercises may substantially diminish and in some instances reverse the consequences of extended physical inactivity. The main idea behind this method is to systematically retrain the neuromuscular system by restoring basic postures and motor patterns, increasing the strength and endurance of key stabilizers, and restoring joint ranges of motion that allow for safe and efficient movement in daily life. By slowly getting back to basic postures and systematically strengthening the right muscle groups, individuals may relieve joint stiffness, decompress the spine, and feel more comfortable and confident as they move about in their everyday lives. This article discusses 5 specific movements that don't need any equipment and target regions that are most often linked to functional decline due to age: the spinal and paraspinal structures, the hip complex, and the core stabilizers that help with lumbopelvic control. The focus of each motion is on functional rehabilitation rather than athletic performance. Each exercise comes with a biomechanical explanation, step-by-step instructions on how to do it safely, a list of common regressions and progressions, and a description of how it might help older people with their musculoskeletal health. The goal is to create a flexible and easy-to-use collection of works that doctors and well-informed non-professionals may use in their daily work. The deep resting squat, which is the initial action, needs special attention, since it is a classic human posture that came before chairs were popular. Squatting has been used as a way to relax work and go to the bathroom in many cultures throughout history. It is a beneficial position for the hips, knees, and ankles when you can still move about. A significant majority of individuals today are unable to perform a complete deep squat while maintaining their heels on the ground. This loss is more due to sitting for extended periods of time in postures that limit hip and ankle movement, which causes connective tissue to shrink and motor inhibition, than a criticism of physiology. The deep resting squat offers several biomechanical and physiological advantages for the lower kinetic chain and lumbar spine. When done correctly, the posture helps the lumbar vertebrae unload somewhat. The slight rounding of the back that comes with a comfortable deep squat can increase the space between the vertebrae and reduce the pressure on the discs and neural foramina. This press is different from the long-term pressure that happens when sitting for a long time. The posture causes a lot of hip flexion and external rotation, which stretches out structures that have been shortened for a long time, such as the adductors, hip flexors, and sections of the gluteal muscles. This condition makes it easier for the pelvis to expand and may even improve pelvic floor function. To keep the heel in touch, the ankle has to be able to dorsiflex enough. If it can't, the knees and hips have to move in ways that put extra stress on the joints and increase the risk of injury. Doing the resting squat right away makes your ankles, knees, and hips more flexible, and it also helps your balance and posture. The squatting posture has an effect on the abdominal organs that is both mild and compressive, which many traditional cultures believe improves digestion and excretion. Additionally, this position may help diaphragmatic breathing and get the parasympathetic autonomic system going when you breathe in a calm way. To gain these benefits and lower the risk of bad results, it's important to use the right methods. Start by standing with your feet a little wider than shoulder width apart. The precise width will depend on your hips and how comfortable you are. To provide the femur greater room during deep flexion, the toes may be turned outward by around 10 to 30 degrees. To start the fall, put your hips back and down as if you were sitting in a very low chair. Instead of intentionally bending your upper spine, keep your torso a little longer. The key aim is to keep both heels firmly on the floor. Heel elevation shows the maximal range of ankle dorsiflexion and should not be pressed. Lower the hips as far as the person can go, ideally, until the back of the thigh is close to the calf while keeping the spine straight and the chest up. To help with balance, the arms may be stretched forward or the elbows can be placed inside the knees to provide a little pressure on the hips and help with hip external rotation. In the final position, ease into the pose, breathe through your diaphragm, and try to relax your muscles instead of tensing them. For folks who can't execute the entire resting squat right away, step-by-step methods make it easier to get there and make progress. When going down into a squat, you can get support by holding onto a sturdy item such as a doorknob, the edge of a table, or the door frame. This helps you control the depth and eases your worries about losing your equilibrium. Elevating the heels with a wrapped towel, a thin wedge, or a small book helps with limited ankle dorsiflexion and allows for a deeper squat while keeping the spine in line. As ankle mobility increases the height of the heel, support should be progressively lowered. Doing sit-to-stand exercises over and over again from a low chair without using your hands builds the strength and coordination of your legs. Lowering the seat height over time is a simple way to make progress. The starting frequency and dosage should be low brief holds of 20 to 60 seconds, done once or twice a day, are adequate to let the body adapt to new movements. You can gradually increase the duration and frequency as your comfort and ability improve. Prioritize consistency and gradual adaptation over attempting to progress too quickly. The second exercise, called the Superman hold, works the posterior chain. This is a lengthy chain of muscle and fascial structures that runs around the back of the torso and lower limbs. The thoracic and lumbar erector, spinae, gluteus maximus hamstrings, trapezius, and latissimus dorsi make up this network. Chronic low back pain is often associated with inadequate activation of posterior structures stemming from sedentary behavior that concurrently shortens anterior muscles, such as the hip flexors and pectorals. This muscular imbalance makes the pelvis tilt forward and puts too much stress on the lumbar spine. The Superman hold is an isometric exercise that works on these weaknesses by making the back muscles work together, which makes the spine more stable and the back chain stronger. The Superman hold strengthens the erector spinae and the segmental stabilizers that help the spine extend and fight against flexion forces. Strong paraspinal muscles protect the vertebral column during everyday actions like bending, lifting, and carrying by acting as an internal corset. The exercise activates the gluteal muscles, which helps with the common problem of gluteal amnesia, which happens when the gluteal muscles don't work enough after sitting for a long time. Restoring voluntary contraction of the gluteus maximus reduces stress on the lumbar spine and improves hip extension strength, which is needed to go from sitting to standing and ascending stairs. The hold helps improve posture by encouraging scapular retraction and extending the front of the thorax. This process reduces the forward head and rounded shoulder postures that are typical in modern populations. Furthermore, this motion brings together the muscles in the back and hips into a single core unit, which makes the torso more stable and improves the way functional loads are transferred. Instead of explosive lifting, precise execution needs movement that is planned and controlled. Lie down on a rigid but comfortable surface, such as an exercise mat on a sturdy floor, with your arms outstretched in front of you and your legs straight and about hip-width apart. Make sure your cervical alignment is neutral and your forehead is softly resting on the surface to avoid hyperextending your neck. Take a deep breath in, then breathe out while raising your arms, chest, and legs by tightening your gluteal and paraspinal muscles. Elevation must be controlled to create a strong but comfortable contraction without hyperextending the neck. The eyes should be directed toward the floor or slightly forward to keep the body in a neutral position. Picture a smooth, continuous line that runs from your fingertips to your toes. While doing a controlled global contraction of the posterior chain, hold this peak contraction for as long as the practitioner can handle it. Beginners may start with 5 to 10 seconds and work their way up to 20 to 30 seconds or more. Carefully lower yourself back to the starting position. Standard sets include 5 to 8 repetitions with breaks in between to help you do your best. Modifications help those who dislike being on their stomach or have trouble with it adjust. Alternating limb lifts, which include lifting one arm and the opposing leg while lying down, lower the intensity while still requiring coordination between the two sides of the body. Simply raising the legs or the upper body to separate the limbs lets you concentrate on strengthening and improving weak areas. The quadruped bird dog progression, stretching one arm and the opposite leg while on your hands and knees and keeping your back straight, offers a gentler option that still helps with stability and is often better for people with lower back issues or those who have had stomach surgery. Doing the Superman hold or its regressions on a regular basis may help the muscles in the back, which might lead to improved posture, less back discomfort, and a greater capacity to do ordinary tasks that require spinal stability. The third exercise, the single-leg Romanian deadlift RDL, works on balance strength on one side and the hip hinge movement pattern. All of these are important for functional mobility. Balance is a complicated idea that includes strength in the muscles, stability in the joints, information from the vestibular and visual systems, and sensitivity to proprioception. A decline in these capabilities markedly increases the risk of falls, a main factor in morbidity and loss of autonomy among the elderly. The single-leg RDL checks proprioception, corrects imbalances between limbs, and strengthens the glute-hamstring complex all at the same time. It does these tasks in a standing, functioning context that mimics real-life situations. Unilateral stance necessitates continuous and precise neuromuscular adjustments influenced by somatosensory input from the foot and ankle, hence enhancing proprioceptive feedback and dynamic balance. Training each limb independently shows and fixes strength imbalances that may lead to unequal loads and compensatory gait patterns. The hip hinge pattern of the RDL effectively works the hip extensors, which are the gluteus maximus and hamstrings. These muscles are important for moving about, going up and down stairs, and going from sitting to standing. The exercise improves the function of the core and hip stabilizers by requiring the spine to stay neutral and the pelvis to stay level during a multiplanar movement. The result makes it easier to deal with disruptions that happen in the frontal and transverse planes in daily life. To make the necessary changes and avoid harm, technical precision is essential. Stand up straight with your feet hip-width apart and your abdominal muscles softly engaged to keep your thoracic and abdominal areas stable. To protect the joint and help the posterior chain become tense, shift your weight to one leg while keeping a little bend in the standing knee. Bend your hips so that your torso moves forward while your other leg moves backward as a counterbalance. Your back leg and torso should work together as a single rigid piece that rotates at the hip. To avoid cervical strain, keep your spine straight and long, your shoulders parallel to the floor, and your eyes looking down the axis of your chest toward the ground. Go down until your body is almost parallel to the ground or until you can't keep your balance and spine aligned anymore. You should observe an intentional stretch of the back chain in the standing leg. To get back up, push off the heel and mid-foot of the weight-bearing leg while using the glute to extend the hip. Then move the back leg forward to line up with the standing leg. For the first few sessions, do 5 to 8 purposeful repetitions on each side for 2 to 3 sets, focusing on controlled tempo and balance instead of maximal range of motion. Progressions and regressions let you learn safely and gradually add more work. To do a supported single-leg Romanian deadlift, lightly touch a wall chair or countertop with one hand to help you balance. Use the support merely to help you find your way, not to hold your weight. The kickstand position keeps the toes of the leg that aren't functioning softly touching the floor behind the torso. The result gives the hip hinge a second point of contact. To maintain form, it may be best to limit the range of motion to a shallower hinge of around 30 to 45 degrees at first. Trainers may gradually increase the depth as strength, flexibility, and balance improve. To help people become better trainers, may slow down the eccentric phase even more, add a little more weight, such as a small vest or handheld weight. But only when the technique is effective, or use perturbation training, like minor nudges, to test reactive balance. The single-leg RDL is a kind of neuromotor training that makes the central nervous system work better with the body's biomechanics. This lowers the chance of falling and makes the body more resilient. The wide stance or sumo squat hold is the fourth exercise. It works on hip mobility, adductor flexibility, and postural endurance. The hip joint is the pivot point for movement in the lower body, but sitting for lengthy periods of time may make it less flexible and weaken the glutes. When you don't move in several planes, your adductors get stiff, your ability to rotate decreases, and your stability in the front plane becomes poorer. A wide stance squat fixes these problems by combining isometric strengthening, active tissue elongation, and retraining the nervous system to keep the pelvis stable. From a biomechanical perspective, a wide stance considerably elongates the adductor and groin muscles. Relieving tension in this region facilitates hip external rotation, and abduction enhances step width control during ambulation and may reduce maladaptive stress on the knees and lumbar spine. The posture mainly targets the gluteus medius and maximus, important muscles for controlling movement and keeping the pelvis stable, thereby increasing their endurance, which helps maintain proper pelvic alignment during single-leg activities and reduces stress on the lower back. Holding an upright torso activates the spinal erectors and deep stabilizers like the transversus abdominis and multifidus, which improves postural endurance. The ability to stay in the right position for a long time, reducing the chance of slumping after sitting for a long time and increasing the ability to stand for a long time. To do the movement stand with your feet wider than shoulder width, approximately 1.5 times shoulder width, is best, and turn your feet outward to an angle of around 30 to 45 degrees, depending on how your hips are shaped. To start going down, Move your hips back and down while keeping your chest up and your spine long. Make sure your knees are in line with your toes to protect your patellofemoral and tibiofemoral joints, and keep your heels firmly planted. Go down until your thighs are virtually parallel to the floor, or as close as you can go without feeling uncomfortable. Engage your core and choose an arm position, hands on hips in front of your chest or with your elbows resting inside your knees to provide a little outward pressure and help open up your hips. Start with holds lasting 20 to 30 seconds, then work your way up to 60 seconds or more as you become used to it. Make sure to breathe through your diaphragm and don't hold your breath, since the exercise may raise blood pressure and intrathoracic pressure in those who are already at risk. If you can't get parallel right now, you can make the hold less deep and use a wall for back support to make it easier to balance and focus on opening your hips and stretching your adductors. For the first few sessions, you can also shorten the hold times and do them in shorter, repeated intervals. You can also switch to a dynamic version where you slowly move in and out of the sumo squat, pausing briefly at the bottom to build time under tension, while also doing concentric strength training. This exercise helps with movement problems that come from sitting in a chair for a long time, and if you keep doing it, it could make your hips stronger and more flexible. The fifth exercise, the single knee-to-chest stretch, reveals a way to heal that has big advantages without a lot of work. Gentle mobilizations that are therapeutic typically make chronic tension and neuronal excitability go down a lot. The knee-to-chest stretch is often used in clinics to help with lower back pain and tight hips. It decompresses the lumbar facets, lengthens the gluteal and deep lateral hip muscles, including the piriformis, and may help with sciatica-like symptoms by reducing tension on neural structures. This type of exercise is a great addition to your diet at the beginning or end of the day, or after sitting or standing for a long time. Mechanistically, bringing the knee to the chest causes mild lumbar flexion, which can make the intervertebral foramina bigger and relieve pressure on exiting nerve roots. This change in position can also change the pressure inside the disc and lower the tension in the back annulus for some people. The posture makes the gluteus maximus longer, and depending on how the limbs are positioned, it may also make the piriformis and other deep hip rotators longer. When these muscles are too tight, they can irritate the sciatic nerve or make hip pain worse. Some individuals find that moving their hips and pelvis a little bit helps with discomfort in the sacroiliac joint by making it more aligned and relaxing the muscles around it. The supine posture, together with careful diaphragmatic breathing, also calms the autonomic nervous system and eases tension in the muscles all over the body. Do the stretch with slow, controlled movements, and don't do any ballistic movements. Lie on your back on a rigid surface, either with your legs straight or your knees bent, and your feet flat on the floor, depending on what feels best for your spine. You may also put a small pillow under your head for support at the back of your neck. To flex one hip, lift the leg toward the chest and hold the area just below the patella or the back of the thigh. Gently pull the knee closer until you feel a comfortable stretch in your lower back glutes or back hip. Keep the other leg either straight or bent, depending on what feels best for your spine. Hold the position for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing evenly and letting the exhalation help the stretch go forward a bit. Gradually let go and do the same thing on the other side, 2 to 4 times. You may also bring both knees to the chest at the same time for a full lumbar release. You can also rock back and forth gently to help your spine move and increase segmental mobility. Adaptations make this section useful in a wide range of scenarios. If you can't get to the floor easily, do the action lying down on a bed that is solid enough. If you can't sleep comfortably on your back, a seated figure 4 stretch on a chair, crossing one foot over the other knee and leaning forward, works the piriformis and gluteal muscles without putting too much strain on your back. People who can't reach their hips as easily may find that using a strap belt or towel over their thigh or shin might help them get the hip flexion they need without putting too much pressure on themselves. The 5 movements listed are typically useful and safe, but you should be careful while starting new workout routines. Movement should serve as a rehabilitative and preventive strategy rather than a source of damage. Before beginning or making major changes to an exercise program, doctors and other qualified people should check for red flags and personal risk factors in the baseline screening. Before starting these or any other exercises under certain circumstances, you need to see a doctor and get professional guidance. If you have severe acute or rapidly worsening back pain, sensory disturbances such as pain radiating down the leg, numbness, tingling, or weakness symptoms typically associated with radiculopathy or nerve impingement, a recent surgical history involving the spine, hips, knees, or abdominal cavity, a diagnosed spinal pathology such as a herniated disc, spinal stenosis, spondylolisthesis, inflammatory arthropathy, or uncontrolled osteoarthritis, severe osteoporosis with a history of vertebral compression fracture, unstable cardiovascular disease, or any other medical condition that may contraindicate specific positions or loading. You should see a primary care physician, licensed physical therapist, or qualified healthcare professional. Examine these situations individually and consider modifying the processes if necessary. In circumstances when things are not clear, it is best to follow careful standards and get help from an expert. Practitioners must distinguish between symptoms that are typical of exercise and indications of potential harm. A controlled burning sensation in the muscles, a persistent sense of stretching or temporary discomfort associated with the recovery of a previously restricted range are generally acceptable. Acute piercing, electric, or severe pain concentrated in the joints, especially if it is new, increasing, or accompanied by neurological symptoms, constitutes a solid indication to discontinue the activity and seek medical evaluation. Experiencing these unpleasant sensations for a long time might do a lot of damage. Additionally, systemic symptoms like dizziness, fainting, or chest pain after physical activity need immediate medical attention. Programmatic elements increase the likelihood of a lasting advantage. The therapeutic effectiveness of these movements mostly relies on consistency rather than intermittent intensity. Consistent repeated practice over weeks and months leads to cumulative changes in the nervous system structure and function that can't be made in just one session. Adding short daily routines of 10 to 15 minutes that include these basic movements in different orders may help you become stronger, more mobile, and less painful. An introductory program may include deep resting squat holds for 2 to 3 sets of 20-60 seconds, Superman holds or regressions for 3 to 5 sets of 5 15-second holds, single-leg Romanian deadlifts for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 8 repetitions per side, sumo squat holds for 2 to 3 sets of 20-60 seconds, and single knee-to-chest stretches for 2 to 4 repetitions per side. You can make progress by gradually increasing the time under tension, the number of repetitions, the amount of help you get, the range of motion, or by adding these movements to everyday tasks like moving from one chair to another or holding a squat while doing chores. Evaluating progress aids in adherence and tailored adjustments. Useful metrics include subjective ratings of pain and function, like easier transfers and less stiffness in the morning. Objective tests, like how long someone can stand on one leg, how many times they can sit down and stand up in 30 seconds, how far they can bend their ankle while doing a weight-bearing lunge test, and how fast they can get up and go. If you don't have a teacher to help you, utilizing photos or video to provide you visual feedback may help you improve your technique. Clinicians may utilize validated outcome tools like the Oswestry Disability Index, the Lower Extremity Functional Scale, or the Short Physical Performance Battery to see how things evolve. Behavioral approaches increase the chances that these acts will become habits. Add exercises to your everyday routine, such as doing a short routine when you wake up during TV commercials or before meals. Set goals that are reasonable and achievable, and focus on consistency instead of intensity. Getting social support from family, friends, or neighborhood fitness groups makes it easier to stick to your plan. Some individuals may benefit from frequent professional examinations with a physical therapist or exercise physiologist to help them improve their technique and make things harder. It is also important to point out typical execution mistakes and corrective signals, as even little technical problems may make advantages less useful and hazards higher. Some common mistakes in the deep squat include raising the heels, curving the lower back too much under stress, letting the knees collapse inward, and holding the breath. To fix these, you should retain your weight through your heels, keep your chest up, push your knees outward, and breathe with your diaphragm. To avoid hyperextending the neck in the Superman hold, keep the forehead level with the surface. To activate the glutes correctly, start moving from the hips instead of the lower back. Common mistakes in the single-leg Romanian deadlift include bending the lower back too much, extending the knees too much, and raising the hips too high. Instead, focus on keeping the pelvis level, bending the knees slightly, and hinging at the hips. During the sumo squat, watch for knee valgus collapse and a spine that isn't straight. Tell the person to keep their knees over their toes and their chest up. Don't pull too hard on your knees during the knee-to-chest stretch, as the strain might make posterior disc issues worse. Instead, concentrate on a gradual, comfortable range of motion and regulated breathing. Overall, it's important to understand that people are different from each other. There are many things that may impact how well someone can handle and respond to these movements, including their history of injuries, the structure of their joints, their sensitivity to pain, their other health problems, and the effects of medications. Therefore, the repertory has to be personalized to each person, and progress should be based on objective improvement and symptom response instead of random timetables. In conclusion, the limitations often associated with aging mostly arise from the enduring consequences of inactivity, postural neglect, and motor deconditioning rather than inevitable biological senescence. The human body retains considerable plasticity until maturity, and targeted progressively challenging bodyweight workouts may improve mobility, muscular balance, and postural stability. The 5 exercises listed: the deep resting squat, the prone spinal extension, Superman hold, the single-leg Romanian deadlift, the wide stance sumo squat hold, and the single knee-to-chest stretch are a practical evidence-based set that focuses on core weaknesses that cause pain and loss of function. Putting aside a little time each day to re-establish these basic movement patterns is an investment in long-term independence, better quality of life, and more functional ability. Movement, when done with purpose, progression, and regularity, is both a way to maintain a body that is meant to move healthy and a way to fix it. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.